Get started. Okay, welcome back to the Candy Colored Studio. I am super excited to introduce to you a very special lady, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So, not long ago, one of my paintings was tagged and shared on the loveliest of Instagram feeds, All She Makes. I was immediately intrigued as I scrolled through the incredible artwork on the Instagram feed. So much variety, color, skill, all women artists, and from all over the world. It quickly became my favorite on my feed. But there was more. The feed had a purpose and a great mission behind it all. Once I realized this, I signed up to be a part because, as you lovely listener know, I am very passionate about supporting women and women artists. Well, today I have the complete pleasure to introduce you to the brains and passion behind this important vision and mission. Svitlana Martynjuk, who also happens to be an extremely talented artist herself. Welcome, Svitlana.
Hi.
I'm so excited. Like, for those of you that are just listening, we actually are videoing this, and so you can also watch it on my website, on YouTube, and you can actually see beautiful Svitlana and her artwork. So, yay, welcome. So happy to have you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure. I never expected, this little project that I started to become what it's becoming. I had an idea, and suddenly it's going faster than I am, so I have to chase after it almost.
That's so awesome. Well, I'm so excited to talk about this project, and I'm also excited to just tell our listeners all about you. So, do you mind just giving us a little background about you, anything that you want to share, Svetlana?
Sure. I grew up in Ukraine. I was 16 when I moved to the States, and I was for an exchange student, that whole thing. And I decided to stay in the States and go to college here, which I did. And then I guess I should tell you a little bit about my art as well.
Yes, please.
So I loved art and painting and whatever you can imagine since I was a kid. That's always been my escape. That was like one thing that I knew I could get lost in, and I just loved everything about it. I remember being a little kid drawing with my mom, like before I could even say what I wanted. I remember drawing with pencils, and then it was watercolors. So when I was finishing high school in Ukraine, my parents kind of decided for me that they wanted me to do architecture, to go for architectural degree, because those pay very well in Ukraine. Well, it's not as simple to get into architectural school as it is in the States. So you have to basically already have gone either to tutoring or to art school for kids to learn the skills, and then you had to do like an assignments to get into school, basically. And I did not pass those assignments because I didn't go to any art school. I started and then I dropped out when I was in 5th grade because I feel like I did not have enough attention span for the slow pace of it.
Yes.
It was just getting too boring for me. I wanted to paint, and they were teaching me about values. Like, for a 10-year-old me, that was not something that I needed to do. I was like, teach me how to paint a picture, not what values are, which is ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
But once I moved here, I had very good, encouraging, and supportive friends, and they encouraged me to pursue my dream, which was fashion design, actually. And as I started learning fashion illustration and all that, I started learning more about the industry. I was like, yeah, there's no way in heck I'm gonna make it as a fashion designer or anything. Like, it's so competitive. So I was like, okay, well, then I need to switch gears again. And then and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do graphic design or do something that has to do with being a creative director. I'm gonna study art history and then become a creative director. And at that point, I was at a point in my life where I was in not a very healthy relationship with someone, and I got married and then divorced. And I kind of stopped going to school during that time because everything was backwards and difficult, and there was a lot of mind games about why I'm spending money on schooling when I could be contributing to the family, and very backwards ways of thinking. So once I got divorced from that person, went back to school, bachelor's. We're at a bachelor's point of my life. So I was like, okay, I don't have time to figure out whether creative direction degree is going to work. I need to do something that I enjoy and that I know that will bring me money. I'm going to become a licensed psychologist. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm telling you, it's like this.
I love it.
So to do that, you need to go to a PhD. You need to get PhD. You need to go to a doctoral program. Well, I was like, okay, I'm going to get bachelor's in psychology. So I did that because I love everything about brain and mental health. So I got my bachelor's out of the way, and then I was like, this is too much. There's no way I'm going to do a PhD for another 6 years. So at this point, I was like, okay, I need to get a degree that is graduate degree, because that's what I always wanted. I wanted to basically tell myself that, yes, I got a graduate degree. I did it.
Wow.
And I was like, what is a short degree that can be super useful? I was like, what is another thing that I like besides psychology or social work? And then I was like, business. I like problem solving. What is problem solving in business? It's strategic management. So I was like, started looking up degrees on strategic management, and I found one at Michigan State University, and they have really, really, really good, one of the best online programs for management strategy and leadership, and I got in. And
Wow.
So I finished it.
Wow. That is so awesome. So it was totally online.
Yeah.
And so, okay, where were you when you were doing the Michigan Graduate Strategies program? Where were you?
So I applied for it when I was in Texas. I lived that whole time in Texas.
Okay.
And then I moved here to Michigan, to Lansing, Michigan, like right before I even knew that I would be accepted. It just happened. So I wanted to move up north, and my husband, my boyfriend at the time, he had he had opportunity with his work to move up to Michigan and get a promotion. So I was like, well, why not? Let's go, because I'm tired of the heat in Texas. It's too hot. I can't handle it. I'm always grouchy. And so we ended up moving here, and then a few months later, I ended up finding out that I got accepted into the online program at MSU. I was like, whoa.
That is so great. Oh, I love that. Okay, so are you guys still in Michigan then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're still here.
And are you outside of Detroit? Where are you?
I'm in Lansing, so we're in the capital of Michigan. Yeah, it's actually very, it's not a typical capital of a state. It's small. It's more like a small town feel than a capital city sort of thing feel. And it was during my master's degree that I actually started taking my own art seriously, because it started, speaking of which, like after my bachelor's, I started painting more seriously, and I noticed that I was actually making decent sales, and it was getting difficult with having a daytime job to manage all of it. Well, when I moved to Michigan, I worked briefly for an attorney's office, and that was so stressful. Lord Jesus. I was like, oh no. And like, just the environment was not very healthy.
Yeah.
So when I quit, I took a few months break just to realize I had depression. What?
Oh, yes.
So, because I started experiencing these, I don't know, things that I never experienced before. And it was only because I had time to finally relax and breathe after all that, just trying to survive basically, because I've been in a survival mode up until then. And once I started addressing all of my internal things, everything else came out. So I was like, okay, well, a few months after that, the decision was like, do I go back to work part-time because I can work full-time, or do I invest more time into my art and still make money? So I started I decided to invest more time in my art, and that grew. And I did that up until, basically right now, January, when all she makes launched. And then things just got even crazier. So I'm like,
Oh
oh my
my
God.
gosh, that's amazing. So many questions. First of all,
Mhm.
I don't think you realize this, but I went to architecture school. So a lot of our listeners might think, oh yeah, Katrina just picked Svetlana because they have that connection. But you guys, I promise I didn't know that Svetlana's parents wanted her to be an architect. Promise. Totally promise. And yeah, so that's pretty amazing. And it was really nice to hear about the background and how you become an architect and how they want you to do all those classes and courses before you even apply. And it sounds like it was like that for art school too. If you would have stayed and done art school in Ukraine, would
Mhm.
it have been similar?
100%. You can't just go to a school without already having some sort of skill.
Okay.
So even art school, there would be people with amazing skills. Like, why do you need to even go to art school? Applying to schools, but because it's the prestige of having the degree from a renowned university where so and so artist worked before, or something like that. So yeah, the entrance exams are not they're not aimed at people who don't have skills. You basically already have to have, way higher than average abilities and skills to even apply.
That's amazing. So would you correlate it to like an apprenticeship, what they expected you to do before you took your testing, your entrance exams? Was it more like you talked about tutoring? Is it kind of like you go and you apprentice under that artist or that architect and that person with those skills, and then after you've kind of worked and learned under them, then do you take the entrance exams?
So back home in Eastern Europe, we have art schools. They're called art school for children.
Okay.
And kids usually, it's kind of like a musical school. People go where they go to learn play piano or something like that, like music lessons. So it's the same for art. And usually kids start going there in the fifth grade. That's when it kind of starts, and it goes up until, I think you graduate high school or something like that.
Okay.
Um, People that didn't get a chance to start at fifth grade, they have a chance to hire one of the professors from the school as their tutor and
Okay.
kind of speed up the process. Have it instead of having it over 10 years, they can do, like, I don't know, maybe over two, see a tutor for a year or two to kind of hone in and then apply.
Okay, but it still feels like it's a very specific path, and your path was not meant to go in that direction.
My
And then,
path, I don't know what direction it was meant to go.
no, I think, well, this is my personal opinion, but I feel like in the end,
Mhm.
that these paths that we take, that they're made for us, and that everybody's path looks differently. But it's hard when you live in a place or a culture where they expect it to be a certain way. And I'm sure you've seen this, maybe not in the art and architecture, and some of the same thing here in the US, but there are a lot of paths that we expect of each other as a culture. We expect people that if you want to have a good job, you have to go to school and you have to have a specific degree to have a decent job, right? And so I think it is kind of a worldwide problem.
Mhm.
And then, so there are people like you and I that for some reason take our own path and it's better for us. So I guess my next question would be, when you talked about, okay, first of all, going back to Michigan
Mhm.
and being in Lansing, does it feel a little bit more like where you lived in Ukraine, obviously compared to Texas? Yeah.
It
Okay.
does. It does. It does. It's what I tell people. It's like it's in between. So there are what is it called? Preconceived opinions about people on East Coast and people in the
Yeah.
South.
Okay.
You take the middle of that, and that's what Michigan is.
Okay.
So it's people are definitely more direct, um, but not as fake as in the South. Gosh, I could not ever understand anybody in the South because everybody was being nice. And at first, I made a mistake thinking, oh, they're being nice. That means they want to be friends with me because that's what that means back home.
Mhm.
And that's not what that meant.
Oh, that's so bizarre.
Yeah,
Okay.
people just think, being polite is just a way of being. And
Yeah.
for me, it's so confusing. I don't understand that. It's like, I'm nice to you because I like you, not because I have no other reason to be nice.
Right, right. Yeah, and again, that's another, I don't know if that's a cultural, like the whole good manners thing. It's good to have good manners, but I like how you say that it's more important to be authentic and be yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's
there's, you can definitely, so the problem I have, sometimes I'm accidentally, I don't even know, should I even use the word accidentally? It's like I am too direct sometimes, and people misunderstand it as, me being offensive, and then I have to explain I might not be able to find the right words because I translate, and I don't have the connotations to
totally.
every word. So like the words that I say is what I mean. There's no hidden feeling behind it because I don't know what every word, the feeling that every word carries. So that's like a language thing is, another problem for me.
Well, and I think that that's a problem for most of us. I have some good friends, one from Turkey, another one from Czechoslovakia, and I think that it was similar with our relationships. And then when I was spending time in France, it was the same thing. In Italy too, I did study abroad just like you, and
Mhm.
both times I could only communicate very, it was very direct, there wasn't a lot of like innuendos and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that the inference is it's just part of if we want to be a worldwide family, we really do have to kind of give up some of those things and just be completely authentic with each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
Exactly.
interesting. Okay, so another question that I have is when you like you were working at the attorney's office, it was miserable, you were not enjoying it, and then you discovered that you were suffering from depression. Like, what helped you get out of it? Did it have anything to do with your psychology degree? Did you go to a therapist? Like, what are some of the things that you did to help you through that situation?
So I did start seeing a therapist, and I basically called my university's counseling office, and I was like, um, "There's something weird happening. I don't know what it is. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and I'm very sad about it. Like I
Yeah.
just have no energy for anything." And the funny thing is, like, you know, this is why they say therapists need to have their own therapist. Like just having the knowledge about mental health and different psychological disorders, I knew what all the symptoms were, but not when I was thinking about myself.
Sure.
I always had a suspicion that I didn't have some sort of PTSD just from how I am basically. And then once I started during that period when I reached out to a therapist and we started talking about more, to what is causing the depression, I also have PTSD.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, well that makes sense because I thought, it kind of made sense. But of course, I can't diagnose myself. But I've just had, so much childhood trauma and then just trauma of life, switching so many, living in a different country on my own at 16 with
Yeah.
no help. Like that
Yeah.
was super difficult, and constantly being in terrible relationships because of childhood trauma, and that just like one thing added to another. And seeing a therapist helped a lot, but also I'm just gonna say what my therapist says because I'm not gonna give myself the same amount of credit. She says that I do a full-time job working on myself to try to be better. And my whole reason for doing that is simply because I'm sick and tired of being on the couch all day. I know that when sometimes you have those days where you need to be on a couch and you need to be sad, but I've had, for the first few months when I found out that I had depression, that's all I did. And I got so sick and tired of it, but I didn't have energy to do anything else. So then I was stuck like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's constant work, it's constant progress. There's never going to be an end to this, but it will get easier. It does get easier. I don't remember. So, for example, right now, I don't remember when it was the last time that I had a day where I was like, oh my God, I can't stand this anymore. This is so hard. So it gets less and less. You learn how to manage your moods, your emotions, your triggers. You learn how to work with all of that, and then you try to take measures so that you can live a happy, fulfilled life.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, I've experienced quite a few like traumatic things in my life as well. And I felt like I can totally understand and connect with the things that you were sharing. I think there is a time that you need to heal and that you do need to sit on the couch and just be still and be quiet. And then there were times when I needed to get up and do something, and I needed to find like a passion project.
Yeah,
Um, and to kind of work through it and to start to manage it. And do those things come back? Absolutely, they totally come back. And I find from time to time, like even with the whole coronavirus thing, I've noticed that there were days last week that I just felt funny, and I just thought, okay, I need to recognize it, I need to be okay that those feelings are there, and I need to see what I can do to kind of like, do I need to sit and heal? Do I need to take some time to heal? And then what do I need to do to just kind of work through stuff? And
exactly.
so, yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think there are so many of us that don't recognize what it is, you know, whether we have a psychology degree or not. It's hard. It's hard to deal with those things. So, I guess my next question, so do you feel like throwing yourself into this All She Makes project, has that been like, between that and the art, are those like the two things that are sustaining you as you manage through these feelings and this cultural changes and the childhood trauma?
Yeah, for sure. So art definitely is just something that makes me happy. I can't, there's no other way to put it except it really makes me happy. Painting, making art, making something, I love doing it. Even if, I really have a hard time getting out of the house into the studio, because of the whole depression thing. So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't go to the studio every time. But when I do, I'm like, oh my God, I love it so much. Why don't I do this more often? Oh my gosh. So, you know, every time, sometimes I'm like, I can barely force myself out of the house. And then I do go. And then I remember how much I love it. With All She Makes, it's a whole another different story, because I get to see other people's work and I get to read artist statements, and they make me cry.
Yeah.
They
Oh, that's so
are
beautiful.
so beautiful. you I feel like I have a privilege of having this access into people's worlds. Like, that's their private, space. That's where they come from, where they create from, and they share their statements with me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so emotional and moving, and I can't believe that's my job, basically. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I think that that's so beautiful. So tell us a little bit more. Okay, so obviously, you know, are you in your home, your apartment right now?
Mhm.
Okay. And then you say you have a studio. And where's your studio?
The studio is like 20 minutes walk away from my apartment, so it's very accessible.
Okay. And
Mhm.
is it a place where there's lots of artist studios or
Yes,
oh,
it's artists. It's a art collective, City Street Art Collective, and we have, so in the first floor we have some. It's a gallery space, and also they teach different classes. They're like dancing classes, painting workshops, whatever you name it. We also have figure drawing class every Tuesday. It's really neat. And upstairs we have artist studios. So I think it's like something like up to 10 artists that we host there, and each of us has our own room, so it's like our own office, and we go there and we paint on
that
our own schedule.
oh, I love it. That is so cool. What a great thing that they have. So is it owned by the community? Is it owned by like a private, like who owns the building and came up with this great idea?
Honestly, I have no idea. I do know who the people that run it. Annie, our operations manager, she organizes everything. And Andrew, so Andrew is a creative director, but he's also one of the artists, and he does metal work, and painting also, like very textural paintings that he makes. So it's sort of half artist ran.
That is so cool. So tell our listeners a little bit more about your art and maybe give us, you know, maybe a glimpse into your artist statement and your process or whatever you want to share about it.
Okay, so the way my art started, so it started from something like this.
Yeah. And she's pointing
This
to
is
a painting behind her, you guys. And it's a beautiful abstract, very
yeah,
colorful. Lots of movement. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So, no, you're fine. And so this is the original of the painting that is right now available at West Elm.
Oh, nice.
And I started with this kind of vibrant colors and movement, bold movements, because I wanted to translate what I was looking at that time when I was working on vibrant paintings. I was looking for basically a safe place, for a place of happiness where I can explore my emotions, where I can explore being happy in a safe space. And that was my canvas. So my colorful and vibrant paintings were kind of just explorations of happiness that's uninterrupted, and there was no limit to it. What I realized just recently, because my work started taking shift and I felt like vibrant colors are just not jiving with me as much, and I couldn't understand why. And as I did art residency in France, trying to kind of poke into that area a little bit, be like, okay, I'm not gonna paint anything colorful. I need to, just absorb what are the feelings that I'm feeling in the moment. And even if they're not happy ones, that's okay, because there's such a huge range of feelings, and we as a society, we always like get stuck on only the happy things, but there are so many other ones. And I realized, like, after the residency, that I'm still stuck. I'm like, okay, I did what I needed in the residency, but then I'm home and now I don't know how to go back to where I was mentally. What's happening? So I ended up hiring a mentor, art mentor, and she is helping me to kind of bridge this gap between where I am mentally and my art. And what I ended up learning about my vibrant colors, like from right now, is that I was looking ahead, I was looking towards the safe space. That's where I wanted to be. And so when I am here now mentally in my happy safe space that I created for myself, that I know how to create no matter what happens in my life, I realized, oh hey, I'm stable, I'm good. Now I can turn around and look back at all the crap that happened and be like, wow, like that was a lot of crap. That was a lot of really terrible things that happened. But before, I wasn't able to face that. Before, that was like too much, just facing the past and accepting what happened. And right now, I'm painting things, like I'm painting things that would be scary for me before. And I'm working with the mentor to kind of bring out these emotions that I carried as a kid, and put them into paintings. And they're sort of dark, but they're not as creepy as I thought they would be, because I think because there's such a stark contrast between the happy and colorful, and some imagery that I'm using is like, oh, like that's a little sad. A kid crying with like help written across their eyes. you know so right now it's like, yeah, that's what happened. That's, I accept it as a part of what is, kind of.
Oh, this is great. This is great. I love to hear the journey that you're taking with your art and how it's all supporting you, your emotions, your obviously your struggles, but also it's helping you move through them. And I think a lot of artists can connect with that. And I think that even the people that don't consider themselves creative and art as an artist, like when they see work like that, it does help them move through things that they've experienced as well. And so I think it's such important work. So thank you for sharing that with us. That was beautiful. So another question that I have for you, obviously you've got all these things going on, and you've had to really focus on your mental health. What do you feel like are some things that you've had to give up to pursue your passion of being an artist?
So honestly, I don't think I had to give up anything, because if I had to feel like I give up something, it wouldn't really be like, it wouldn't be the right thing that I was going after, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, the only, like, not that I give up, but it seems like the only thing that I'm lacking is social interaction, because I work either from home or studio, and not all the time people are in the studio at the same time that I am. And if they are, they're working on their own things. So I had to kind of work around it, around the issue. And my solution was, I realized that I bond well and jive well with other people that work from home that maybe don't have children.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of freelance creatives that also work online or, work from coffee shops. And I make an effort to meet with some of them, 1 or 2 times a week. And it's very nice. So, and then I realized, okay, so that's how I find my co-work space, I guess. It doesn't feel as alone. So that would be like the only thing that I would say I was lacking, but then I found a way around it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think that one of the biggest themes that I've noticed so far with you as a person, and obviously now getting to know you and your artwork, is that you are very willing to just be who you are. And I love that about you. I love that you truly are an authentic person, not just in word, but in your actions. And I love that you recognize that you miss that social interaction. And I'm grateful that you have a studio at a very community-based place where you do get to interact with other artists, with other creatives, dancers, all the people in the arts that are using that space. But then you also recognize that you were losing and missing that even more. And so you went out and you're finding a way to make that a part of your life. And you're finding other people in the same position as you that are doing this freelance creating, and they don't have that social interaction. And now you have coworkers. I think that is so beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that a lot of times we as people in general, especially, this is what I've heard a lot this last couple of weeks as everyone's been hunkering down for the coronavirus. I hear so many friends and family saying, I can't do what I was doing before. My life is ending because XYZ, because I can't do that thing anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, can you do something similar? What else can you do? And even my kids were the same way. My daughter said, I can't go to dance classes and my friends are all depressed because we can't meet at dance. I'm like, okay, well, let's find you another passion that you love to spend time in. What can you do differently? And so she's been baking and creating and cooking at home. And I love that. And then her brothers are doing totally different projects, again, different than what they were working on before. And so I think that, Svitlana, you are the perfect example of a person that says, okay, I want to be me. I want to be a healthy, happy person. I want to feel successful and feel like I'm doing good in the world, but I can't do these things. What can I do to change it? And so I guess this is my plea to everyone listening, to take Svetlana's example and say, okay, my life looks different right now. It's not what I planned. The path that culture and people or even myself have laid out for myself, it's different. My path is different. This moment in coronavirus is different. Like, what can I do to break through? What can I do to actually utilize this and to make my life better? Like, you look at Svetlana, she's connecting with other people in a way that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise before technology, right? And so I think, again, technology is giving us these opportunities to connect and to better ourselves. And so, what can we do to make ourselves, just to be happier and not just happier, but to follow these passions and to feel more complete as a person, even if it means working through hard stuff. So,
Man, thank you for the encouragement.
yeah, no, you're awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about All She Makes. So for those of you that this is kind of a first glimpse into All She Makes, basically from what you've heard so far, you realize that Svitlana is gathering women from all over the world, specifically women artists, and she's created a directory. So go ahead, and that's your launching point. Tell us whatever you want to tell us about All She Makes.
Well, the easiest way to put it is, I found it because there was just the thought that kept ringing in my head was, okay, the representation of women artists is like 13.7%, in galleries and museums even lower. Like, it's insane. Where the heck do you find women artists? Like, where do you find them? And then I thought, okay, you find them at craft shows, not even representing the entire, population of artists, only a specific part. Where else though? Like, where do you find quality art by women that are not able to get into galleries? Like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, there's just not a place for us. What in the world?
Yeah.
And I was like, there are small pockets of communities online, but I wanted something that was worldwide, that was global, that was gonna reach to everyone, to women in Kazakhstan, in Russia, in Japan, in I don't know, Congo, something, everywhere, that it's wide and broad. And I did not want to be another small pocket, in a local area or a small pocket online. I wanted to be something huge and uniting. And that's where kind of I came up with an idea. It's like, okay, I'm gonna make a directory, and I want quality artists, so it has to be curated. and the access to the directory is free. So if anybody needs artists, you know where to go. Oceanmates.org. I feel like it's kind of, that's the whole point of it. It's accessible and it's right there for you. So you don't have to, like, artists don't have to pay membership fees. I reach out, I constantly, like, that's one of the biggest parts of what I do is outreach. I reach out to art organizations and companies to see if they want to bring talent from our directory. That's what I want. I want visibility for women artists. I want more exposure. I want opportunities. So all of the women artists that are in our directory already, or they're in the process of submitting, we do consider them for future opportunities. So if something does come up, we go to our director and we say, okay, who can we pick? Who can we choose? Or we give the access, to the people that we work with, and we'll be like, okay, here's the directory. Pick whoever you think suits best. That sort of thing. So yeah, that's a place to find women artists.
It's amazing. It's so amazing. And like you say, it's really just started in January. And here we are 3 months later. And the amount, like I said in the introduction, the women that have been curated into this directory, their artwork blows me away. There's just every day I get on there, and it is, I hate to say this, but it is the most uplifting thing that I'm finding online right now. Yeah, it's true. And so, I mean, it just has lifted my soul so much. So tell us, like, do you have a team that are helping you? Like, I know you've had guest curators come in and help, but like, tell us a little bit more about how it's working, and yeah, like, where do you see it going? Like, do you need help?
It's just me right now.
It's a lot.
So it is because it's just me right now, and work comes in waves. It's not really steady what I learned, like the amount of work that I have to do. So it's hard to be like, here's a person and here's the job, because it's so not consistent.
Yeah.
And it depends on so many different factors. There are so many variables because it is a business, and it's just at the beginning of growth. There's not a very base stability to it. It's just kind of like, whoa, like a boat trying to find a way to be stable in water, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's where it is right now. There are times when, once the submission period closes and I have to, then we have to curate, and then after we curate, I have to manually enter everyone into the directory. So that takes so much time. So during those times, I do reach out to people, and I do pay curators. As much as I want to be like, do you want to exchange, services? I also understand that people do need money.
Yeah.
So I feel very happy that I'm able to offer that to people. Not me, but all she makes. The organization is what I mean. Even though it's just, I mean, as the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so tell us some of the opportunities and projects that you're working on within All She Makes.
Okay, so we did have a sculpture park reach out to us in search of women sculpture artists, which I thought was pretty cool because it literally happened within like 1 or 2 weeks of launch. And I was like,
That's
oh,
amazing.
you already know about us. Oh my God, this is
So
important.
good. Yeah.
And we are actually getting ready to open a call for art for our very first online sculpture and installation art exhibit. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool.
I'm
So
working
cool.
with a lady that runs, what is it? Hold on. I know what it's spelled. It's WO Art Blog. I think it's women. Hold on. I want to look it up real quick because
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, so it's daily post of women artists ran by Christina Massey. She's an amazing lady. Oh my gosh, she has already accomplished so much, and not just because she accomplished so much, she's amazing. Also, she's amazing because she's a lovely lady. But um, she posts also lots of women artists in her profile, but she has a real knack for finding really good sculpture and installation artists that are women. So we decided to team up, and then she's going to curate this online sculpture and installation art exhibit, which I'm really excited about. Later in the year, we're going to have a photography exhibit, and also right now what is in the process, there will be a feature of a few of our artists in Create magazine. So I'm super, super excited about that because it will be in print, and it is something that the artists will be able to look at. And this magazine is a global magazine, and you can find it in many shops in other countries. So to me, that's like mind-blowing exciting.
Yes. So the feature with Create Magazine, um, how did that happen? Like, is that already done and they're going to print, or when should everyone look for that?
So it's already done. So we pick and curate, just a handful of artists that we can fit, because that will be one of the biggest issues of the year that they have, and it's women's issue due to March, being Women's History Month. So their call for art was during that time. I think it closed somewhere at the beginning of the March or something like that. But um, yeah, they will publish, a little bit about All She Makes, about what we do, because we are for women representation in the arts.
That is so awesome. So
Yeah.
basically, they're doing a special article within the magazine about All She Makes
Mhm.
and some of the women that are in the directory already.
Yep.
Super cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so tell us, what can we do to support All She Makes?
I think the only thing that I can tell is talk about it.
Yeah.
Anytime you hear people say, where do we find artists, or what artists can you suggest, refer them to All She Makes, because that's what we're there for. We have amazing artists. You can choose from any of them.
I love that. So please share with your friends and take the posts that Svitlana is sharing on the feed and reshare them in your stories and talk about them. And yeah, whatever you guys can do to share them, that would be amazing.
Exactly. Word of mouth is like the best thing that we can ask for, because only when people understand what we do, then they will be like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, yes, let's support the thing. So
Totally. Oh, I think that's so great. Okay, so obviously we've got a photography exhibit coming up. We've got the art installation and sculpture exhibit coming up. Create Magazine in March is going to be super cool. Is there any other All She Makes things that we need to be aware of? Like, do you have like a email list that people can get on?
yep, 100%. You just go to our website, allshemakes.org, and there is a sign up at the bottom where you can just submit your email.
Perfect. So definitely get on the email list and then tell us, what projects or events do you have coming up personally? Anything you want to share with us?
I also I've gotten so busy. So as an artist, I do a few things. I have my art at West Elm that's licensed and minted. I also do jewelry painting for one of our beloved vintage jewelry shops here in my area. It's called Jin Jin Vintage, and I paint um, engagement sets for people.
Wow.
So anyone who orders an engagement set, they get a custom portrait of their pieces. Yeah, that's, oh my gosh, that's so lovely. I've had people come up to me on the street, tell me that and show me their rings, and I was like, oh my god,
That is
it's so
so
special.
cool.
I
What
know.
a
And
special thing. That's so great. And how big are these paintings that you're doing?
so about 5 by 8, something like
Yeah.
that. So
Okay, that's
the whole
awesome.
thing is 8 by 10, but it's matted, so
Yeah.
it's about 5 by 7 or something like that.
What a treasure. That is so cool that you've been able to do that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
there's another thing that I do, which is just my recent new gig. I curate art exhibits for few of our local coffee shops. So there are Blue Owl coffee shops, and there's 3 of them around town. And I'm in charge of the art wall installation. So that's also been really exciting. And oh my gosh, it does take so much time. I didn't realize.
Yes,
So it's
totally.
just, I feel like I've been getting more involved with the arts, kind of without necessarily being the artist all the time. And that's
Sure.
the part that I enjoy.
That's so great. So yeah, obviously you've got this online directory where you are the curator, but then you're also curating local events
Mhm.
and opportunities, and you're doing basically commission work and then your personal work. I think that's a beautiful balance. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's plenty.
Yeah, well, gosh, that's so great. Okay, so tell us anything else. Obviously, we can sign up for your email for all she makes, and then remind everyone what your personal website is.
My personal website is svitlanas.com, so svitlanas.com. And there's also ways to sign up for a newsletter, but neither All She Makes or nor me send out a bazillion newsletters. So don't think you'll be getting like a letter every day. That's not happening.
Yeah, that's
That's like,
okay. And the all she makes it's .org, right? Allshemakes.org, and then I will go ahead and link to both your personal and the All She Makes Instagram feeds. Are there any other things that we need to tell people about?
you know what? That's all I have in my mind. If something comes up, you can always hear about it online. So
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your journey, for sharing like your heart, and just for being really real with us because you are a total breath of fresh air. So thank
oh,
you
thank
so much.
you. No, thank you for having me. And that's, that's one thing that I do try to tell people. Don't live your life how you think society will accept you. Make sure you understand what makes you happy, and maybe there will be some grieving process of letting go of what you thought your life should be, but understanding that what you need to do to make you happy is a little different, and that's okay because ultimately you're the one who will be happy from it, not anybody else. So might as well do what makes you happy.
Absolutely. Oh, I just got chills. My heart was like totally warming up. You are such a beautiful person. Thank you for all that you do for our community, Svetlana. I just can't thank you enough. And I'm so excited to see what happens over the next few months. It's amazing to think what you've accomplished in 3 months. So everyone check back in about June or July and be ready to be blown away, right?
Yes.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here. We really appreciate it. And to all of you out there today, just sending lots of love from Svitlana and I from the Candy Colored Studio.
Thank you.
Thank